Okay, can everyone hear? Great. So we're going to go ahead and get started. If you are coming in or came in and didn't get a packet, there are stacks of packets at the end of each entranceway, so feel free to grab one. Thank you all for coming. I know we're very excited that the weather held out, but I know it's not very warm, so we appreciate you venturing out for your warm homes and joining us tonight. And I want to thank our esteemed guests who are joining us from the universities. So just a quick review as we go through this presentation. If you have any questions about what you hear in terms of college and you need to speak to your school counselor, this is just a reminder of who your school counselor is this year. I'm Mrs. Goodwin. I'm sophomores and juniors and through SEI. You have Mrs. Carolyn, A through DEJ, Mrs. Graves, who's standing right there, at DEK through JI, and then Mrs. Krasuk, JO through M, and Mrs. McDaniel, N through SEI, the seniors, and then Mr. Fitnevel, who is SEL through Z. So, just in case you forgot, quick reminder of who we are. Our website, you can go onto our website. We will have a filmed version of this, a recorded PowerPoint. It's not this whole presentation if you want to review that later. And then there's a lot of other great information as you begin to start to look at colleges and next steps after high school. So with us today, we have, you can just wave or briefly stand if you'd like from your seats, but we have Wesley Wright from U of M, and then Charisse Lucas Perry from OU, Hannah Tripp from OCC, Zachary Cox Mandigo, from Michigan State, and then Laura Zavala from Hope College. Okay, so before we get started with the sorting game, we're going to show a quick video. So we're going to get that rolling.
Welcome to the Clarkston High School's College 101 Information Night. On behalf of the Counseling Department, we thank you for joining us this evening. Now, let's get started. When looking for a college, it is important for students to consider the college search as finding the right fit. Oftentimes, students will choose a college for prestige, where their parents went, where their friends are going. The popular choice is not always the right one. It is very important for you to find the best fit college for you, your personality, and your program of study. The last thing you want to do is find yourself somewhere that is not what you expected, or even worse, somewhere that does not offer the program of study for the future career you are interested in. Choosing where to go to college is as important as college itself. Do your research and take notes on each college so that you can compare and contrast at a later date. There are many college search tools on the web, in addition to visiting each college's website and taking a personal or virtual tour. When researching, you will want to pay attention to the admissions requirements and ACT, SAT preference, as well as the size of the institution. Are you a person who likes the big institution and larger class sizes? Are you more comfortable in a small setting where you have the opportunity to get to know many students and staff on campus? Location. Distance from home may be important to you. Is it important that you be able to visit home frequently, or do you see this as a time to experience a new part of the country? Are you a big city type or more of a rural type? Maybe something in between. Cost. With the price of college, you may want to compare and contrast colleges in terms of annual costs, merit scholarships, which are automatically awarded for high school GPA and test scores, and other competitive scholarship opportunities. Quality of programs. Even if you are not 100% sure of your program of study, you most likely have an area of interest. So, say you are interested in business. What does the college offer in terms of business? Are there several options in the event you start one program and decide it's not for you? Colleges that offer opportunities and choices will be the best in the long run, rather than finding you have to transfer to another college because you changed your mind. In addition, ask to meet and talk with someone in the program and ask questions about what is unique to their program, what opportunities are available, and what is the staff to student ratio. Public versus private. You will hear later that the sticker price of private colleges can be shocking in comparison to public. The private schools tend to have endowments which allow scholarship opportunities that bring down the cost. Also, be sure to take notes on application deadlines, student activities, and housing options when researching colleges. How you apply to college can be as confusing as choosing a college. There are a couple application terms to know. Early decision. If you choose to apply early decision, it means that you are committing to that college if your application is accepted. It is legally binding and basically says no matter how many colleges I apply to and am accepted to, I choose you over all others. Early action means that all college application materials are due on a specified date, usually around November 1st, at which time the admissions committee reviews all applications completed by that date and gives a decision between December and mid-January or earlier. Regular action is most common application due dates are January to February with decisions around April. And then rolling admissions, colleges who accept applications and review as they are received. Typically, students will hear back within about 4 weeks. As an important note, no matter where students are applying, CHS counselors strongly recommend students apply by November 1st so that they can begin focusing on searching for and applying for scholarships. Housing and residence options. Is living on campus required? How many people to a room? What are the prices of meal plans? Next, we are going to hear from a student's perspective about applying for college.
I found the college application process very stressful because to me it was such a huge step to be taking, and this place that you're going to be devoting 4 years of hard work to, and I really wanted to find a good fit for me. To overcome the stress of the college application process, getting together and working with friends certainly helped a lot. And trying to stay really organized and on top of all of my deadlines, asking teachers well in advance for for recommendation letters, and getting all my materials together. I had a big file folder where I kept my transcripts, my SAT and ACT test scores, everything in one place. I think that I learned through the application process for college to really stay determined, and that even when the going gets really tough and it feels impossible to get all of the work done, that if you just break it up into small pieces and you do one thing at a time, you can do it and you can make it work. And I also learned simply to let myself relax a little bit and not be so stressed about it. My mother kept reminding me that it's not the rest of your life.
This is what college reps look at when they review your application. They look for students who have earned strong grades in challenging courses. They also try to learn about your character by looking at what you do outside the classroom. Take advantage of opportunities like the application essay and college interview to show a more complete picture of who you are. As a side note, many colleges have waived the SAT and ACT for admittance. However, most still look at those scores for merit scholarships or honors colleges. Again, it is very important to research what the college is looking for and what is required before applying. Now, here's a word from a college admissions rep.
When colleges are trying to put together their enrolled class each year, the students from all of their applications who they will admit and enroll, if students would think of it as trying to have a successful party, and if you're having a party, you don't want to invite all of the same kinds of people. You don't want to have just loud, obnoxious people at your party. You want to have some of those people. You want to have some quiet people. You want to have people who want to play games and people who want to have conversations. Same thing happens when a college admissions dean is trying to bring together a new class. They want all kinds of different students. So they do want those brilliant 4.0 valedictorians who are really going to excel academically. And they also want students who are going to be good academic students, but are also fun and going to be involved in a lot of activities. And students who are musicians and students who are athletes and everything in between. So if students would think to themselves, all these things that I've done, somebody out there is going to be interested in me as a person and want me as part of their community. It may be there's some college who aren't going to want the student, and that's fine too, but there are plenty of colleges who will. Students obsess about where they're not going to get in instead of really being excited about the places that take them.
It is suggested that you apply to at least one REACH school, one match school, and one safety school. This helps balance your applications and leaves open the possibility that you can exceed your own expectations. When looking for colleges on College Board's Big Future website, you can enter your GPA or test scores, and it will let you know what schools are a REACH, a match, or safety for you. This timeline shows all tasks involved with applying for a college from beginning to end. Note that most of these deadlines are in September of your student's senior year. CHS counselors meet with 11th grade students in May to encourage working on some of these items the summer before senior year. As we already discussed, there are merit scholarships and competitive scholarships offered directly from the colleges to bring down the initial cost of college. However, there are many scholarship opportunities and search engines out there. This can become very overwhelming, so here are some tips from CHS counselors. First, never pay money to get money. Scholarship applications are free. Next, consider national scholarships in terms of every high school senior in the U.S. applying for them. Your chances are limited, so we encourage narrowing your search, for example, state-based, region, or local scholarships. Local scholarships that are available specifically for Clarkston High School students are listed on the Clarkston High School Counseling website and updated weekly from November through April. Students should apply for every scholarship they qualify for. Aside from scholarships, all students and parents must file the FAFSA. I was told once that even if you have enough cash to pay for college or are the child of Elon Musk or Mark Zuckerberg, you still file for the FAFSA, as each college will create a financial award package, and you don't want to miss out on anything because the FAFSA was not completed. The FAFSA usually becomes available October 1st, and it is first come, first served for state or federal aid. Just this year, the FAFSA is improving their system and have delayed the opening to December 31st. Now, here's an overview on paying for college.
One important thing to think about when setting financial goals is that it actually starts at age 16 or 17 with a conversation with your parents about who's going to pay for college and how much will they pay and how much debt will be involved for the family and for you in particular. It's easy to sort of take one student loan out or take another one out for the second semester of your freshman year, but you need to sort of think about how much will that all add up to. Before you take out a student loan, you have to consider a couple things. I'd first, try and imagine what it'll be like to try and pay this loan back in 4 years or 7 years or whenever it is that you'll be paying it back.
I think we have borrowed far too much for higher education in the name that it's good debt. But week after week, I get emails from college graduates, sometimes 10 years having graduated, and still loaded down with this amazing amount of debt. I actually got an email from someone in their 50s who was still paying off their student loan debt. Oftentimes, people don't realize that they, especially in this economy, may not get the kind of jobs with the salaries to service the amount of debt that they've taken on. And what it means is that if there's a retrenching of this credit, meaning that people now have to think of different ways to go to college. So perhaps your college student has to live at home and not on campus or in an apartment. Perhaps they need to go in-state instead of out-of-state.
Well, the traditional way to pay back your student loans is to pay back equal monthly payments over a 10-year period, and then you're done. But if you can't make those monthly payments, you might want to do what they call an extended repayment plan, which is basically stretching out the term of your loan, which reduces your monthly payment to the student loan company. There are other kinds of programs like graduated repayment programs or income-based repayment plans that look at your income and figures out how much you can pay per month based on your income.
Basically, all student loans get chopped into two categories: subsidized student loans and unsubsidized student loans. Subsidized student loans are those loans where the government is paying the interest while you are in school. And about 6 months after you are no longer a full-time student, you have to take over the payments. The nice thing about a subsidized loan is that the interest was paid while you were in college, so the loan itself did not grow in size. An unsubsidized loan is when the payments are deferred, but the interest still keeps accruing. So you might borrow $10,000 on an unsubsidized loan in your freshman year, and you graduate and that $10,000 has grown to $14,000 or whatever the number may be. So I tell students, be very aware of whether or not the money you are borrowing is unsubsidized or subsidized, because if it is unsubsidized, that money is going to be larger than what you originally thought you borrowed. Student loans are not like any other loan in the sense that if you default on a student loan, there are provisions for lenders to get that money back from you easier than maybe a credit card company or a car loan company might be able to. It's possible that your tax return or your wages might be garnished.
So even after all your research, planning, and acceptance, you need to be aware that colleges can revoke your acceptance and scholarship offers if things plummet, such as grades, rigor, activities, etc. Seniors, be sure to finish strong. This completes the end of our pre-recorded video. We will now take a look at the admissions sorting game for a better understanding, followed by our live interactive session with college reps.
Okay, so I have some students in the audience who have volunteered to play this game with me. So if you will make your way towards the stage for me. And through this game, what we're going to show you is a little bit more about how college admissions works. And then right after this game, then we're going to start with the Q&A with the college reps. All right, so if you guys will line up in GPA order for me. So start with the highest GPA over here on the left, going down to the lowest GPA. Which one are you at? What's your GPA? 3.6. Do you have your, oh no, you'd have a card. They got cards. So, for the game, sorry. Thank you for coming up, though. Okay. All right, so just hold up your GPAs for everybody. We've got them in order. Awesome. Okay. So, if you have taken an exceptionally strong academic program, move forward 2 spots. If you play the oboe or viola, move forward 1 spot. If you clearly stated that this college was your first choice by filling in early decision, application, and commitment, move forward 2 spots. If your intended major is psychology or pre-med, move back 1 spot. If your intended major is Greek, move forward 2 spots. If you do not know any of your teachers well and had trouble finding someone to write your college recommendations, move back 2 spots. If you forgot to change the name of the college to which you were applying when you cut and pasted your college essay, move back 4 spots. If you are a legacy, move forward 2 spots. If you did not write the optional essay for your college application, move back 1 spot. If the topic of your college essay was my trip to France or what I learned from playing sports, move back 1 spot. If you wrote the essay of the year, the one that passed around the admission office because it was so remarkable, move forward 3 spots. If you plagiarized an AP European history paper and got caught, sit down, you're out of the competition entirely. If you will be the first in your family to attend college, move forward 2 spots. If you participated in an enriching summer program between your junior and senior years, move forward 2 spots. If you have participated in no extracurricular activities, move back 3 spots. If you have participated in a significant community service project, move forward 1 spot. If you are an Eagle Scout, move forward 2 spots. If you are a varsity athlete, move forward 2 spots. If you are a varsity athlete and took 2nd place at regionals in your sport, move forward 1 spot. If you got a D in an academic course at the end of your junior year, move backwards 3 spots. If you came to the college information session and introduced yourself to the college representative, and in the case of the student who just got the D, explain the extenuating circumstances, move forward 1 spot. If you are a legal resident of Idaho, this is an interesting one, move forward 3 spots. If you never gave your counselor any personal information for use in writing your college recommendation, move back 1 spot. If your last name is Kennedy, the name of the college library is Kennedy, and it's not a coincidence, move all the way to the front and stay there. It is. All right, so that is the end of our sorting game. So I want you guys to read your GPA off and take a look at the order you are now in. So what's our top GPA here? 3.2. Yep, 3.4, 5, 3.6. 4 O's now in the middle. 3.9, 3.7, 3.3, and 3.8's totally out because you plagiarized. So this was to give you an idea of what it's like when our admissions reps are reading through all the information on students, that it's not just based on the GPA numbers, that they're taking a look at the students as a whole. So thank you very much for playing the admission sorting game. All right, as soon as you guys get your prize, I know she has a prize for you. Did you each get your prize? Awesome, thank you. Okay, so now, I know you guys have probably been waiting for this all night. We're going to bring our reps up on stage. And we're going to start off with some questions that we have for them that are common and come up quite a bit. And then at the very end, we'll open up to the audience. Yeah, so. All right, I think we're now ready. All right, this first question is for the whole panel, so just kind of take turns answering this one for us. So in our video, we spoke about qualifiers for college admissions decisions, kind of like what we just did in the sorting game. Could you speak to what your school looks for?
Go ahead and start. Good evening, everyone. My name is Sharice Lucas Perry, and I'm the Associate Director for undergraduate admissions at Oakland University. And typically, what we are looking for students, our average student comes in with a 3.5 GPA. Minimally, students do need to have at least a 2.5 in order to be considered for admissions. We are also a part of the Michigan Assured Admissions Pact, and so if you haven't heard of that, please, I can definitely give you the website, but you would need to have a 3.0, and the institutions that are a part of that pact, you will have automatic acceptance into our universities. So definitely something to consider as you are looking to the different colleges and universities.
Hi everybody, my name is Hannah Tripp. I am one of the admissions coordinators at Oakland Community College. What we're looking for minimum is a high school diploma unless you are a dual enrollment student. But what's nice about OCC is we don't have a minimum requirement for GPA. We're SAT, ACT score optional. So we're really just looking for that diploma and students that are, open to learning. Yeah.
All right, my name is Laura. I'm from Hope College. As far as admissions goes, I think we really do look at the whole student. We like to look at obviously GPA. Our average GPA is about a 3.6. ACTs and SATs are obviously optional now, but we do like to look at volunteering, how much volunteering a student is doing, where they're volunteering, any sports, jobs, anything like that is really important. And we also really look at the essay. We spend a lot of time reading all of the essays, so that's a big part of the decision.
Hi everyone, my name's Zach Cox-Mandigo. I'm an admissions counselor at Michigan State University. We look at a wide variety of things. We do the holistic review of our students. Your grades are very important. We take a strong look at that, but it's not even always just your overall GPA though. We don't just look at that and call it a day. The middle 50% of our students at Michigan State have a 3.5 to a 4.0 range, but we have students, 25% of our students come in below that, 25% of our students are above that. We break it down further than just the overall GPA. We look at the classes that you're taking, core classes in particular. We really emphasize English, math, social studies, foreign language, science, that kind of thing. We really emphasize the core classes that students are taking. If you're taking any advanced classes like AP, IB, dual enrollment, that kind of thing, that also gives you a bump, as well as you're doing well in those classes. It's not worth taking an AP if you end up doing more poorly in it than you would have in a non-AP class in our case. So we take a look at those things. We look at your grade trend. You know, maybe you had a hard 9th grade, but if you really improved afterwards in 10th and 11th, that's great. Maybe you had a really good 9th and 10th, but then 11th was not your year. That's not so great. So that kind of thing. But then beyond that, we look at the other things that you're involved in school, you know, activities, sports, any jobs that you've had. I see a lot of times students won't list that they had a certain job on their application, and then you read their essay, because we read all of your essays, and they talk all about that job that they had one summer. So we always say, you know, don't sell yourself short on those kinds of things on your application.
Hi, everybody. My name is Wes Wright. I'm an admissions counselor at University of Michigan. I'll pretty much echo a lot of what everybody else said. At U of M, for our admissions process, we look at 3 quantitative factors and 3 qualitative factors. So we'll look at your grades. The average GPA for an incoming U of M student is a 3.9 on an unweighted 4.0 scale. However, we don't have a minimum GPA requirement in order to apply. We will look at the rigor of the curriculum you have decided to elect. And then if you have decided to submit any test scores to that, we will take that into account as well. However, we are test flexible, so you do have that option of if you want to submit a test score. And then for the qualitative factors, we'll look at your extracurriculars, your letters of recommendation, and then your essays. And your essays are really your chance to tell us more about yourself and really let your personality shine through. Because we don't have an interview process at University of Michigan, your essays are really your chance to let your personality shine through and tell us more about yourself.
Thank you. Okay, so this next question is for Zach from MSU. So please discuss the trends that you are seeing in college admissions.
Yeah, so I've only been in admissions for a couple of years now. I've been working with students and pursuing higher education for a few more years than that. But one really big one, essentially since 2020, and a little bit before that, has been test optional applications. So Wes just mentioned with U of M being test optional, MSU, a lot of institutions are test optional and may continue to be test optional moving forward. With Michigan State, we're going to be test optional through May 2026. It could be renewed beyond that, but that's the plan for right now. But that's created a really big change in terms of the students' priorities when they're doing their college applications, because they no longer need to put all of this weight, in a lot of cases, on their SAT or their ACT score. And so that's kind of shifted the game for a lot of students who are doing their college application.
Okay, before I move on, is there anybody else that wants to touch on that one? Okay. No? Okay, just making sure. Okay, the next question is for Laura from Hope. Okay, what would you recommend juniors do during their 11th grade year to prepare for the college selection process?
Yeah, I think that choosing a college is really important. And kind of like the video said, sometimes it does feel a little bit stressful. But definitely take advantage of your junior year. Like, speak with people in your life who have gone to college. You know, ask them where they went and ask them why. Why did they choose that place? And kind of figure out the reasonings for it. Start exploring different colleges and figuring out what's important for you. If it's a big college, a small college, playing sports is a big thing. So definitely start talking about that. Start visiting these schools so that way you kind of have like a first idea of what these schools look like, and then go back your senior year. And then I would say definitely, like, you know, prepare for testing, even though it's test optional for, I think, all of our schools. We do look at that for merit scholarships. And I would say probably if you're like an athlete, junior year is the year to start making those connections with admission reps and coaches. So definitely start looking at making those connections with the reps so that way we can get you connected with that if you're interested in playing.
Just making sure, too. Each time, too, if anybody else has anything to add, please feel free. Okay, next question is for Hannah from OCC. So counselors often hear from students that they are unsure if they want to go away to college, what they want to study, or if the family can afford college. Many students in this position lean toward going to a community college. What are the benefits of going this route?
So I think one of the biggest benefits is obviously cost. We are a community college, so our funding is lower due to the community paying their tax dollars. With this, all degrees, whether it's your associate or your bachelor's degree, they all have the same general education courses. So that will be your basic math, science, English, social science, and they have what's called the Michigan Transfer Agreement. So you're able to take those general classes at OCC or a community college in general for a lower cost, and maybe take a couple of electives, and that gives you time to figure out maybe what you want to do. And then those general courses will transfer to any public university in the state of Michigan. So you're still able to go to a four-year college if that is something that you know is a goal of yours. And I know that at OCC we do have agreements with four-year colleges. So for example, off the top of my head, we have an agreement with OU for our nursing program. So you do 3 years with OCC and 1 at OU. That way you get your 2 degrees in 4 years.
Okay, all right. Next one is for Wes from U of M. Many students have expressed concern that their grades from freshman and sophomore year will keep them from being able to attend their top choice university. Is this a valid concern, and what would you recommend?
Yeah, so what I'll say is, when we are looking at your transcripts, we are looking for any grade trends that you might have. So do you have an upward grade trend? Do you have a downward grade trend? Or are your grades pretty consistent throughout? So say maybe in your freshman year, maybe you did struggle a little bit and you didn't quite get the grades that you were hoping for. But then say in 10th grade, your confidence starts to build, you're getting better grades. And then in 11th grade, you're doing really well. To us, that would look like an upward grade trend. And that shows that even though, maybe you struggled a little bit in the beginning, the fact is you were persistent and you worked really hard to get those grades that you have now. So by no means is a poor grade in your freshman year going to be the end all be all. That's not going to be something that I think will greatly harm you. But on the flip side, make sure that you don't let senioritis get you down, and to make sure that you're continuing to do well during your senior year, and just keep on working hard. I know it can be hard, as the end of the year approaches, but just make sure you're getting those good grades so that you can go to the school of your dreams with no fuss moving forward. So that's what I would say.
Okay, next question is for Charisse from OU. In our test-crazed world, the idea of taking a 4.5-hour test that could seal the fate of a person's life provokes a lot of anxiety. Tell us about the standardized tests and the application process. Does it matter if students take the ACT or SAT? How important are test scores? And will schools continue to be test optional?
I love this question, right? Because it definitely has, I would say, COVID kind of turned the admission world kind of upside down as far as what are we going to do about these test scores? And first off, a test score does not determine your success in college. So please know that we recognize that it can be, you can be anxious about tests. Not everyone is a great test taker. And that's why we do rely so heavily on your academic transcript. However, it definitely depends on the institution that you are applying to. There are some institutions that still require a test score. So that is why the communication as a student with the admissions representative, looking on the school, particular school that you're interested in's website, to know what is their policy when it comes down to tests, standardized tests. Most of us up here, we're test optional. And so that is a choice up to you as a student. However, I will say this, when it comes to academic merit scholarships, here at OU, and I can use myself as an example, we have 2 sets of scholarship opportunities. We have a test optional scholarship, and then we have a scholarship for students that have submitted a test score. The ones with a test score they do have a little bit more of an opportunity to receive a higher scholarship. So definitely take a look at those merit-based scholarships to see if your test score could qualify you for a higher scholarship. And so I think, it's definitely an individual choice, but we're here in admissions to answer those questions for your student or to you as a student, what we would recommend if you submit the test score or not for admissions purposes. But I would definitely say, like for OU, definitely submit it for scholarships. It doesn't hurt you to have that test score submitted. Also, keep in mind that some schools use the standardized test score for course placement into your first year classes. So if you have already taken that ACT or SAT, you have that test score, you don't want to necessarily take a placement test at orientation, submit the test score so then that way you've already, shared the type of knowledge you have in that particular academic subject. So it's up to you. I definitely think like this is the year, junior year, to do the research, right? I mean, that's why we're up here. Do your research. Make sure that you are aware of those policies at each institution because we all are very different as well.
Our next question is kind of on test scores again. This one is for Laura from Hope. So some students believe that they should wait to send test scores and only send their very best. Is this true?
It depends. I think it depends on the school. If it's a good test score, share it. Don't wait for that because for some schools it does affect your merit scholarship, right? If it's a low test score, probably don't share it. I have students that just text me and they're like, hey, I retook my test. This is what I scored. Should I even bother sending it in? It's as simple as that. It's just a conversation we can have. And sometimes it's a yes, share it, send it to me. And then the merit scholarship could increase. Or I just tell them like, it's really not going to increase your merit scholarship. It's good to have, but it's not going to change. And she decided, well, if it's not going to change my merit scholarship, I don't really need that on my record. And I said, great. It really just depends. But it's important to kind of keep in touch with that admissions rep because we have a deadline of when we can take them. So for Hope, I don't know if it's different for you guys, but for Hope, it's February 1st. If your GPA increases, if your test score, if you've tested and it increases, we can go ahead and reevaluate to see if that would change your merit scholarship. So definitely just go ahead and share it if it's a good one.
One thing I will mention for U of M, we do super score test scores. So if you do submit multiple test scores, we'll take the best sub score from each test that you submit. So we'll only take those best sub scores and then we'll combine them together to create a super score, which can help make you be the most competitive applicant that you can be regarding any SAT or ACT test scores as well. So that is something that you can also keep in mind as well.
Okay, the next question is for Zach from MSU. I'm a student who worked hard to maintain average grades, B's and C's. I have good study habits and college is important to me. Where should I apply my efforts in the college selection process?
Yeah, so if you saw earlier in the introduction video, there was a bit about having 3 different schools that you're applying to. You're having your reach school, your match, and then a safety school. And I think for yourself as a student, when you're looking at your grades, and if you're kind of unsure where the best fit is, you can start there in terms of finding institutions where that GPA average matches closest and one that you'd be interested in. It's always really important to go and visit those schools in person if you can, go tour them. And then also having some schools picked out that ideally you'd really like to go to, but maybe you feel you're kind of on the bottom end of what their GPA requirement is, and then a safety school just as a backup in case either of the other two options doesn't work out. So really for any student, regardless of where their GPA range is at, I think that's a really good practice to have, is find one that's on the upper end, find one that you feel you're right in that middle range for, and then find one that that will work. You're fairly certain regardless of what your GPA is.
This question is for Hannah, OCC. We are hearing more and more about the early college or middle college programs in high school. Can you explain what are the benefits? Is there a downside?
Yeah, so for those that don't know, our early college program is where you are able to earn your high school diploma and an associate degree in grade 13. So it is an additional year that it takes. So I would say a benefit of that is you are earning your diploma and an associate degree at the same time in a very short or earlier time frame than you would if you were to do them as separate steps. Another benefit is you're able to take that degree and either go right to work, or you're able to transfer to a four-year university or college. I would say the biggest downside that I've heard of is that you don't graduate with your peers because it does take an additional year. But, you know, the benefits kind of depends who you are, but I would say they outweigh that a little bit.
Sorry, real quickly, just on one downside, and it's not a huge one, but with any kind of dual enrollment or EMC, anytime you're coming into an institution with a lot of credit, sometimes, depending on the program that you're in, there can be some difficulties in terms of some programs expect you to have a lower amount of credit than like the 60. So for example, some programs might want you, you might only be able to take certain classes when you're below a 60 credit range. And so as long as you're preparing for that and knowing which program you want to go into, that can be fine. But if you're going into a program after 2 years of EMC and you weren't preparing for those things, sometimes you can get some bad surprises for students who are doing that. So as long as you're preparing, then you'll be okay.
And if I could add to that, what we see is sometimes EMC students are not sure how they should be applying to that institution. And so at OU, we still consider students that have graduated from an early middle college as a freshman. So you will still apply as a freshman. We also have an internal name called first time in any college student, even though you have already taken some college courses. We're looking at that as credit, but you will actually be able to apply and be considered for those freshman merit-based scholarships, which gives you that opportunity to take advantage of 4 years of academic merit scholarships instead of with some transfer scholarships, it's only 2 years. So it's definitely a benefit to be a FIDIAC or first time at any college. And what I also like to remind students is kind of what Zach was talking about, is that when you come in with no college credit, you'll be coming in under the class standing of a freshman. But when you come in from an early middle college, your class standing could be at a sophomore or at a junior level. And so you have to be aware of the tuition rates. Some institutions have differential tuition. And so even though you are a freshman coming in, your standing is not a freshman because you have so many college credits. So just be aware. Make sure you ask those pointed questions as far as like tuition rates, because I know financials are huge questions in regards to the college decision. So a lot of great benefits for students that are participating in an early college. Please talk to us at the university, because sometimes we can help guide you as far as what classes you should take at that in your early middle college program that's going to be beneficial towards your degree at the respective institution.
Okay, next question is for Wes. U of M. Is it better to get a B in an AP or IB course than an A in a standard course? How about a C instead of a B? If I need to bring my GPA up this year, should I avoid classes that are too difficult? What is the inside scoop about course selection and GPA?
It's a very good question. So, I would say it's not the most satisfying answer, but, it takes balance. It's a little bit of both. So I think you don't want to swing on one side and overload yourself with a lot of challenging courses, but then not really being able to handle it, not really being able to enjoy yourself. But on the other side, choosing not to challenge yourself just to try and have a 4.0 GPA is also, not necessarily the best thing, because we do want to see the most competitive students do decide to challenge themselves, when available and as classes fit within their interests. So it's a little bit of a balance. And I think making sure that, you're not doing this alone, that you're working with your high school counselor and speaking with other people who have your best interests in mind, and they might be able to really help you understand, which courses might be the best place to try and challenge yourself, and maybe what other courses, you might want to pursue in a different way, maybe not as challenging. So I would say challenge yourself when you can. Take more rigorous courses when you can. That will make you a more competitive student and will also help give you a more well-rounded education. Also, I apologize for my voice. I'm recovering from a cold. So I would say the main thing is try and find that balance. Work with people who you trust, and try and challenge yourself as much as you can.
Next question is for Charisse, OU. So some students hope to improve their GPA during semester 1 of their senior years and are leery about applying to college before then. Should those students wait to apply? Would students who wait until the end be viewed as not ambitious or unsure? Is it better to apply early and get deferred?
So I think I have to go back to, it depends on the institution. As far as my experience at OU, we love to have those conversations with students as far as seeing where you're at. I always encourage students to apply when they are academically the strongest. It gives you that best opportunity to put your best self forward. Academically. However, if you're having that conversation with your admissions advisor, going over the admission requirements at OU specifically, we will love to know who you are, and that way we can already say, hey, you're strong enough now, and because sometimes students are they might be surprised. They're like, oh, okay, I didn't realize that. But then we get to have that conversation with you as far as what we're looking for. And so at OU specifically, I always say, go ahead, you can apply. We'll have that conversation with you to let you know if we are going to defer your admission. And then that way we're able to still keep in communication with you. Once grades roll for that 7th semester, we'll send that reminder like, don't forget to send us your updated transcript. And that way you will go through that re-review of your application. But I definitely want to give my colleagues an opportunity to answer if it might be a little bit different at your institutions.
Next question is for Laura of Hope. So some students have complained that their parents are making them do volunteer work because it looks good on a resume.
I know, right?
But they don't have the time while balancing school, a part-time job, and their participation in extracurricular activities. What role does a student's resume play in the admissions process?
At Hope, it plays a big part in your admission application. We want to make sure that students are involved, so I know that, trust me, I feel for you guys. Students are texting me saying that they're super busy and they can't do this and they can't do that, and I'm like, I understand, right? Like, we were all there at one point. But definitely it's important because you stick out, right? where you volunteer, how many hours you volunteer, the connections you make. All of those things are going to stand you out in a normal application. You know, if I have a student who hasn't done any volunteering, not even jobs, sports, or anything, I would be a little bit concerned if they're going to be a good fit for Hope, right? Because of our college. So I love to see when students have a job, and if you can only do a job and you can't volunteer, like that's okay, right? Because that's your priority. That's still showing that your involvement in the community. So I would say, you know, still try to go ahead and do that. I think you guys require volunteering hours. Do you? We don't. You guys don't. You guys aren't required, which is great because you know what? Then that stands you out more if you do, right? Because it's not a requirement for you guys. But I would say definitely go ahead and just try to do something, even if it's just like one weekend a month, totally fine to go ahead and try to schedule that for like 4 hours, right? Volunteer at the school, you know, like today, you guys could have volunteered a little bit to help set up or anything like that. It's like the little things that do go ahead and count, and it's going to help you guys at the end of the day. So try.
Yeah, our only required volunteer hours would be if you go out for NHS. At that point, you would be required to volunteer, and you could list that as your volunteering. We do have a lot of students who list that out for us on their senior volunteers, and that is part of it. It's a lot of what you've done to help out the community, so definitely list out those projects.
And those connections you guys make, wink, wink, are people that you can ask for recommendation letters for scholarships. Wink, wink. Kind of important, guys.
I was just going to add one thing, if the panel agrees. I've heard a lot from college admissions lately that with your extracurriculars too, it's kind of following your passions and showing that you're kind of pursuing those, that it's not just doing everything under the sun, that it's really showing that if you're interested and you know the major that you want to apply for in college, that you've pursued those passions in your extracurriculars or your volunteering or your job, that you're really following those. Is that the case in admissions?
Okay, next question is for Hannah, OCC. So college costs are enormous. Some schools cost more to attend for 4 years than the price of a home. What are some ways families can afford the rising costs? Can you speak to transferring from a 2-year college to a 4-year institution?
Yeah, so a big way to help with the costs is scholarships and financial aid. So most scholarships, at least the ones that we have, require a FAFSA account. You do need the FSA ID to apply for them, but there are a ton of scholarships for all schools that will help assist with the cost. I know for one at OCC we have one designated for our incoming freshmen. It is a good amount of money that pays for your entire first year, books included, any fees that we might have. So that is something to look for if you are a senior or in your senior year, because we have it every year. But if that's not something that you maybe qualify for, there are other scholarships as well. For transferring from a 2-year to a 4-year, like I had mentioned before, those general credits or those general education classes, you're going to be taking them no matter where you go. So taking them at a 2-year at more inexpensive costs as opposed to taking them at a 4-year where it might be a bit more, and being able to transfer those through the Michigan transfer agreement, or if you choose not to use that as well. If you want to go out of state, that is an option as well. I personally started off at a 2-year and transferred to a 4-year for the sole reason of that it was less expensive to get those general credits out of the way, and it did save me a ton of money. So, yeah.
Next question is for Zach, MSU. So if applications indicate that letters of recommendation are optional and a student only sends what is required, does it negatively impact their chance for acceptance?
Yeah, so again, I think this comes down to the institution. I can speak on my experience with the MSU Office of Admissions. We're optional for letters of recommendation, and this could even come down to the individual counselor. When we say we're optional, For me personally, I mean it. So for everyone in this room, if you apply to MSU, that means that I'm going to be the one that reads your application. Because letters of recommendation are optional, that means that even if I receive one, I'm not using it on the review process. Out of fairness to students, we tell you, you don't have to send it. So the students who do send it, we tell you it's not even required in the first place, so I'm not using them on the review process. But it's important in any of those cases to reach out to the schools that you're applying to, ask the admissions counselor if it's optional, to what degree is it going to be used? Can it benefit me? Is it worth submitting? Or even if it's optional, are you even going to use it in the first place if I do put all that effort in? I always tell students, if you're really itching to have a letter of recommendation written for you, you'll have opportunities for that for scholarship applications. When you go to apply for jobs later down the road, you're going to need letters of recommendation. So you're going to have that opportunity at some point. So even if the institution doesn't require them, you'll still have that experience at some point in time.
This is our final panel question, and it's for everyone on the panel. In 3 words, describe why you believe your type of college is the best choice.
Okay, so I always say, because I am also an alumnus of OU, so go Grizzlies. I absolutely loved my experience and love working for the school that I attended. But as far as affordability, I definitely think the value that you are going to receive as far as your college education at OU is definitely worth it. I also have to throw in, we're no fees, so there's no additional fees that we require for students. So no fees, affordability, and definitely we're very supportive as well.
I would say the 3 words I would pick are inclusive, diverse, and inexpensive. I don't have an explanation. I just
just go ahead and take the 3 words. I think for Hope, I think I would choose rigorous, vibrant, and transformative.
Yeah, for Michigan State, my 3 words are campus and community.
National football champions. I'm sorry. Sorry, I had to say that. I had to say it.
You got us there.
I would say the 3 words I would say would be something for everyone. U of M has just a lot going on, whether you're looking for a big Big Ten college feel or a smaller liberal arts college sort of feeling. There's a little bit for everyone. So that's what I would say.
All right, so that completes our questions. So now it's time, if the audience has any questions beyond what we just asked our representatives. All right. What's your question? Okay, so it sounds like the balance of whether or not to have the parent involved in the admissions process or if it should be the student solely.
That was a great question. We're over here deciding who's going to go first. I like to have a balance of both, honestly. I love speaking with the student because the student is going to be the one who attends our college, right? So I definitely want to be able to hear from them, but I think it's important to hear the families, the parent side. So whenever I meet with a student, I want to talk to them about like what stood out to them about Hope, like why Hope, why are they visiting, things like that. But I also want to get the parents' perspective because you guys know your student best, right? We're just meeting them for the first time, so you guys know what would fit them best. You know like what the concerns are, whether it's location, finances, education. You know, you guys are the ones that know that information, so it's good for parents to be also involved. So I would say equally, I myself will communicate more with the student. As far as like communication goes, like if I'm visiting a school or updates or anything like that, I typically will go ahead and email or text the students a little bit more, but parents still go ahead and get like their updates and also things like that.
I would definitely say that it's a balance, right? I think as a parent, and I have 3 little ones, it is important that we teach our children or our students to advocate for themselves. And so the best way that we can do that is helping them practice what type of questions should you be asking. Because once they do step foot on our college campus as a freshman, the communication between any of our support staff is going to be with the student. And so how can we make students more comfortable in that initial process? And the perfect way is to start with admissions. Yes, I think it's a family conversation, right? We should be talking about finances. You should be challenging your student as far as what are their academic interests, how are they going to pay for it, and not necessarily depend on you solely to answer that question. Because ultimately, if they do have to take out any debt, that's going to be on them. And so what are their plans? So how can we advocate? How can we help students feel comfortable in asking those questions and being able to understand those answers so then they can tell them to you? I like to work very closely with students. I always encourage the parent to be there because it's nice for the student to know that they have, I like to call everyone influencers. They have an influencer support. That is one thing that's going to be so important, is that support. But they have to be able to feel comfortable and confident when speaking with us in admissions, student financial services. They need to understand those processes. So allow them to do the application, allow them to speak with us. Believe me, we recognize that it's their first time, and we will be gentle, patient with them as much as we can, and also honest with them. But that's going to teach them that life skill. Because, again, when they do get on our campus, we have something called FERPA. And so we cannot share their information with you. So it's just, I feel like it's good practice to start working on those things now and to open up those lines of communication. So when they get through their first semester, how will they relay their grades to you? That's a conversation you want to have.
Okay, any other questions? Yes. Mm-hmm. Okay, so he's asking about the Assured Admissions Pact. Is 3.0 GPA the only requirement?
Each school does have their own separate application process. So you will have to look at their application. Like, you still have to fill out their application, their supplemental questions and so forth. But we are looking for a minimum GPA of a 3.0. And so for students that that go through the Michigan Assured Pact, you will be admitted to Oakland with that 3.0 GPA and completing our application process.
Okay, next question.
So for the colleges that do require a letter of recommendation, can you tell us a little bit about how many, should they be diverse, how many people, or just give a little bit more background on what we should focus on, how many and types of
Okay, I think you heard it, but I just got to say it through the mic for the camera. So they're asking about letters of recommendation for those that do require it, just who they should be from, like how many are required. So if you could talk to that for those schools that do require letters of rec.
You want to go first? Oh, okay. Yeah, so for U of M, we only require one letter of recommendation. So you're more than welcome to submit more than one letter of recommendation, but we just tell students we only need one. And we do want that one letter of recommendation to come from an academic source, like a teacher or somebody who can speak to the student's academic aptitude, success, and potential in the classroom. So coming from a teacher would be the most ideal, but obviously COVID, we're still dealing with that. That's changed a lot of things. There is a little bit of flexibility if a student has someone else other than a teacher, maybe a coach or somebody else who can speak to their character and success. But in most cases, we would like that letter of recommendation to come from a teacher, and just one. We only require one.
Okay, any other questions? Yes. Okay, so I get your question. Okay, so this student in particular attends our Oakland Schools Technical Campus and is looking to go forward towards her program of interest that she's taking at the technical campus. But in order to attend there, because it's half the day, had to drop history and science, so isn't taking as many core classes. So she's wondering about the effect of that. Can you cover that?
That is a great question because I know, for MSU admissions reading applications, we see this come up a lot where students in their junior and their senior year, they're in a tech program. And I think this really comes down to the institution in terms of how they recognize those programs. I will say in most cases with MSU, we tend not to recognize a tech program as a core class. And so where that comes into play the most is for a student's senior year. For example, with MSU, we're looking for students to take at least 3 core credits in their senior year, and oftentimes those tech programs can take up a lot of the opportunities to get those credits. And so if you have a goal to go to an institution that has requirements like MSU or like another institution might, then it does become a challenge for students to make that balance and figure out those decisions in terms of, do they want to pursue that tech program or do they want to build the curriculum that will best prepare them for that specific institution. So there's kind of a balance at play there in terms of how you do it. And it's also important to, again, reach out to the admissions counselors for the schools that you're applying to figure out, do they consider your tech program core? How do they look at it for your college application?
Okay, for time's sake, I know we've gone over. So if you have more questions, I know we do have like the tables that our reps have set up. Are you guys going to be around for a little bit longer? So if you have individual questions, you are welcome to ask them. They'll be located around their tables here that are in the middle. And if you'll click one more slide for me, thank you. We would love to thank all the students who came up and played in the game. So thank you very much to those students. Thank you. And thank you to our wonderful reps who came out this evening and volunteered to join us and ask all our questions, or answer. So thank you very much. And then we would love to know what you think. So there is a QR code if you grabbed one of the packets, or there's one up here on the screen. So we would love for you to take that quick survey. It's only 5 questions. So if you could please do that either right now or later on. If you grab the packet, feedback helps a lot. So again, the reps will be available at their tables. Please take some information, talk to them. They're here for that piece, and thank you for coming.